All right, first, just like 10 minutes worth of 5.3. So this is part one. It says I'm asking find the 6 trig functions for an angle going through -2, 5. So we're going to kind of do 2 types of problems today. The first one, we have an -2, 5. What quadrant am I in for -2, 5? Right up here, that's our second quadrant. Very good. So it's -2, 5. I'll call it right there. So our angle is just like that, and it goes through -2, 5. So we use this to draw our triangle. So we have a right triangle. We're going to use, this is called a reference angle. From this angle, we go either straight down or straight up to the x-axis, and that produces a reference angle. So we know that our angle, red angle, is this big, but we'll use the reference angle to find the 6 trig functions. So we can use the fact that it's -2, 5 to find the sides of our triangle. I went over 2 and up 5, and this is negative for 2 reasons. One, because it's going left, it's going to be negative. The second reason, it's given to you as -2. So then we can find the hypotenuse. How do I do that? How do I find the hypotenuse? Good, Pythagorean theorem. So 5 squared plus -2 squared, 25 plus 4. So this would be the square root of 29 is our hypotenuse. Okay, once we have our triangle drawn, a lot of the work, most of the work is done. Now you just need to know Sohcahtoa. So Sohcahtoa, the sine is opposite over hypotenuse, the cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. In this case, the sine of theta, opposite over hypotenuse, would be 5 over square root of 29. Now, what's wrong with that? Ed, what's wrong with that?
I don't see anything wrong.
We got a square root on the bottom. Okay, so 5 over square root of 29, I can make that multiply by the square root of 29 over the square root of 29. I get 5 square root of 29 over 29. So that's actually what goes right there, because we don't like square roots in the bottom for whatever reason. Cosine of theta is adjacent over hypotenuse, so -2 over square root of 29. Of theta is opposite over adjacent, so -5 halves. The other 3 can be found by just finding the reciprocal. So the cosecant would be the square root of 29 over 5. The secant would be the square root of 29 over -2, or negative square root of 29 over 2. And then cotangent of theta would be -2/5. Okay, so all that, just once you have the triangle drawn, then you just find the ratio of the sides. So let's try another one. Let's say we're going to go through 3, -4. So find the cosine of theta if theta is an angle going through the point 3, -4. Why don't you try that? So find 3, -4, draw an angle through it, see if you can figure out the cosine of that angle. All right. After that exhausting 2 or 3 minutes that I just gave you, I'll go through it and see if you got the same answer. So 3, -4, I go right 3 down 4, we'll call it right there. Here's my angle. So I'm going to label my sides of my triangle, 3, -4. So that's 3. This is going down 4. It's negative because it's going down. Hypotenuse is always positive. 3 squared plus -4 squared is 5 squared. So the hypotenuse is 5. Hypotenuse is always positive. If we go right, it's positive. Down, it's negative. So then the cosine of our angle would be what? 3/5. Very good. 3/5. Okay, so that's one type of a problem. You draw it, you label the sides, find the third side typically, and then you can answer any of the questions. There's another type of question that I'll ask. What if I asked you to find the sine of 150 degrees? What quadrant am I in? Second quadrant. Very good. So we draw our angle. 150 degrees is this angle right there. That's 150 degrees, which leaves how big of a reference angle? 30 degrees. Very good. So I have a 30 degree reference angle. Now we have to remember special right triangles. Across from 30 is always 1. The hypotenuse is always 2. And the other side is the square root of 3. Across from 30 is always 1. Hypotenuse is always 2. Across from 60 degrees is always the square root of 3. Now, is this square root of 3 positive or negative? Is that positive or negative? It's negative because we're going to the left. And that's positive because we're going up. So now we can find the sine of 150 degrees. It's just the opposite over hypotenuse, so I get 1/2. So this is the type of question on your test where you will not have a calculator. And I will ask you to find the sine of 150 degrees. You'll have to draw your triangle and find the opposite over hypotenuse. One other problem. Let's say I wanted to find the cosine of, we'll say, 210 degrees. I'm running out of time, so I'll just kind of do it for you. 210 degrees is 180 plus another 30. So that's 1, 2, square root of 3. This one is negative because we're going left. This is negative because we're going down. Once the triangle is drawn, I can just look at it. It's adjacent over hypotenuse, so negative square root of 3 over 2. All right, we'll do more of these types of problems and some other stuff next week.